Hi, welcome back to Thomas Turner Fishing Antiques, and we are delighted today to welcome our friend Tim Pilcher, worldwide angler and saltwater specialist, tackle shop owner, author, and all things good in life. And we're going to talk today about specialist saltwater fishing reels. Get my teeth in and put that one right. Specialist saltwater fishing reels, of which I know less, of which you know more. So you're the expert today, and you're the ideal man to come along and chat about these reels. So welcome as the first thing. It often intrigues me why somebody would buy a reel of, say, $100 or £100 that may do a job perfectly well when you go fly fishing, and yet when you go stateside for the saltwater, they'll spend thousands of dollars to do the same job. But it does a very different job, because I know I took over a very budget reel from the US and the guide laughed at it. And when the bonefish ran for 100 metres and the spool fell off the reel, I then realised I hadn't spent enough money buying the right product.
Well, generally, the more you pay, it will have a higher quality drag system, but also a higher quality anodizing.
Right.
So against the salt water, it'll protect it and it'll last a lot longer.
Right. So that's why most of them appear to be bright, appear to be a little bit gaudy, but it's actually very functional.
Yes.
In terms of that. Okay. And most of the reels we got here are the Seamaster models. So we have an S-type shaped handle thing model, and we have the flat face, or what we would call a plate wind, and over there we have the iconic wedding cake. What's the difference in them all?
The flat face, as you call them, the Mark Seamasters are a direct drive reel. The S handles are an anti-reverse. Okay. That's primarily the difference. The Finnor wedding cakes are a direct drive again.
Right.
They're known as a wedding cake simply because of the shape of the rear of the reel. It looks, with the tiers, like a wedding cake.
It does, yep. So if I'm looking at them visually, when I see that, I know that's anti-reverse.
Yes.
99% of the time, recurring.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a direct drive.
That's direct drive, yeah.
Okay. Why would I buy an anti-reverse then, as opposed to a direct drive?
Well, the anti-reverse, basically what happens is the spool, when a fish is running out and taking line, the spool rotates and the handle stays stationary. Some people don't like trying to grab hold of the handle when the line is running out, because you can get a knuckle wrap.
Is it these guys who order 5 pints?
Yes. Yeah. Whereas these, when a fish is running out, the handle is spinning around as it's taking line. Some people just prefer an anti-reverse style of reel. Both have their merits. I wouldn't have said any one is superior over the other. They've both got their merits.
If I was fishing for a bonefish, which is a fairly high-speed thing, it's like a barbel on steroids. If I was going to fish a bonefish, would I go anti-reverse generally, or do you say it makes no difference?
It makes no difference. It's just personal preference. Some people think you have more leverage and more cranking power with a direct drive than you do with an anti-reverse, but it really doesn't make any difference. If you're a novice, novices can prefer the anti-reverse reels because they don't get a knuckle wrap.
Yeah.
That's bonefish size. That's tarpon size. In particular for tarpon fishing, people do prefer the anti-reverse because a tarpon is the bonefish on steroids times two, jumps and they grow to very large sizes. They can grow to over 200 pounds, which is a large fish to catch on a fly.
I've lost them well over 100.
Yeah.
Haven't landed any.
No.
But I've lost loads well over 100. So if that counts as a big fish, then I've lost a lot. And none of it was down to the tackle, I have to say. It was all down to me.
Yeah.
It's the Egypt at the end of the rod that you have to worry about, not the tackle supplied. Now these wedding cakes one, is the drag, why is it stepped up? Is the drag in the back on the outside of that? And how is that functional compared to these flat face reels?
The drag is in the back, but it's not within that step.
Oh, okay.
Part of the adjustment in the drag is within the step system, but the actual drag is within the rear of the reel.
Okay.
It's just the design of the reel. It's how they were designed.
I always had it in my mind there were 2 or 3 drag systems, and that then created that wedding cake look.
I'm with you.
But it's not that, is it?
No, it's not.
Aesthetically, they've built it like that, and hence the name came out.
Yeah.
So these aren't that old in terms of collectibles. We
Not
sell an awful lot
massively.
of collectibles. So if the average age of these is what, 80s or 90s or something?
No, these ones are probably 50s and 60s.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, well, these are in remarkable condition for 50s.
Seamasters are still made. The company's still going. These ones are all original Seamasters and older Seamasters, and these would have all been custom made by Bob McChristiansen, who used to own the company.
Right.
Likewise, the Finlaw wedding cakes were made by Garwood Jr.,
Yes, heard of him.
owned Finlaw in the early days. He used to make the Finlaw wedding cakes.
Okay. So if we talk about values briefly, shame to be rude about it, but we have to. In terms of ascending value, which would be the cheapest reel here for a collector to... I mean, collectors collect them, of course, as
Yeah.
well as people use them. So which would be at the lower end of the market price-wise? Is it because of the smallest one, or is that nothing to do with it?
No, it doesn't really relate to that.
Okay.
No. That reel...
So what's the deal?
Sorry to lean across you.
No.
That reel is particularly unusual because it's a Mark 1, which is the smallest size, but that's all black, and they didn't make many all black ones.
Okay.
They were generally gold and black,
Right.
whereas this one's all black.
So it comes back then to
But you can see the
rarity
quality.
and model variance.
Yes, exactly. You can see the quality of the anodizing on that. If you think that was made in the 50s or the 60s, I mean, it's still as shiny as it came out the factory the day it was made.
If I may, that's absolutely amazing.
Beautiful.
Get a close up on that. I mean, the finish on here, it's like a mirror, isn't it?
Yeah, fabulous.
So
But that's
maybe-
what you're paying for with a higher price tag in modern day reels.
Oh, it's lovely to wind as well. God dear me, look at that. Absolutely lovely.
Likewise, if you go back years ago when there were price ranges of reels, these would have all been at the higher end, at the top
Right.
end of the market.
Right. So these are your Bentleys and Rolls Royces
Exactly.
of the saltwater.
Totally. And they've all stood the test of time. Likewise, if you bought a cheaper reel in those days, it wouldn't still be usable now. It wouldn't have the desirability or the collectability about it.
Yeah.
And
So buy the best.
yes,
Okay.
and that's very much still to be said in this day and age. Buy the best in saltwater reels, because fishing in saltwater for saltwater fish is the ultimate test for reels. Generally, the fish are bigger and stronger, and the environments are harsher.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the saltwater, it's
I know certainly from fishing down the Keys where the water is much shallower. A lot of the fishing I've done, you can see the fish and you can step
Yeah.
out. And you couldn't chase it, but you can step out, and you're knee deep. And because there is no depth to it, of course, there's only one direction it can go, and it's that way
just
at high
runs.
speed.
Yeah.
So the reels I took over initially, I mean, one guy he wouldn't let me on the boat with the gear. He
Yeah.
says to me, "You're not getting on with that," and that was just the clothing. You know, so I had to go back and I'd take his advice, leave my stuff, use the fishing gear he gave me, which was similar to this, which done the job. But I would have had to have spent thousands of dollars to buy it. But I suppose it's buying the right gear, you know.
It is. I had a
But
dear
anyway.
friend when I used to live in Isla Morada, which is in the Florida Keys, where all this sort of fishing started, saltwater fly fishing, with Zane Grey back in the day, and then Dr. Webster Robinson caught a sailfish on the fly there. And when I lived there, a friend from London came out to visit, and he was going off to Costa Rica to fly fish for tarpon and for sailfish, I think it was.
Yeah.
Sailfish. And he bought a very inexpensive reel, and I took him into my local tackle store when I lived out there to show the guys in the local tackle store that he had the reel he had, to see if it was suitable for what he was doing. And the guy in the local tackle store just smiled very wryly, and he just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Yeah, go for it, each to their own." But this friend had booked 6 days fishing. First fish ran out, tried to palm the reel, burnt his hand so badly, couldn't fish for the rest of his trip.
No, well.
So he lost effectively a whole week's fishing because he took the wrong tackle. It's just a waste. And yet if he had invested correctly at the start and bought the right reel, he would have been fine. He would have had a whole week's fishing.
So all of these are still very usable.
Very much so,
Almost
yeah.
a shame to use some of them, because some of them
Yeah.
look as if they haven't been used.
Yeah.
And in collectible terms, if they're built within the last 50 years or so, I imagine some of these have exceeded the original cost by a lot.
Yes.
Okay, so if they're in, are we in the hundreds of dollars here, in the thousands of dollars?
Thousands of
The
dollars,
thousands of
yeah.
dollars. Well, the good news is this collection's just come into stock. Thanks very much for your insight into that, because I am a novice when it comes to the fly fishing, saltwater fly fishing side. all of this collection and more, which we'll come to in another video, are coming into stock. So thanks for watching. Have a look at our website, and if you want to change or even upgrade or part exchange anything that you've got, drop us an email, give us a call, and we'll chat swappy tackle. That was brilliant.
Thank you, John. That was really
nice,
good.
nice to
Yeah,
hear the down the Keys thing. So I used to
Yeah.
fish a little bit down at Marathon Keys and do a bit down there. So.